And good afternoon, everyone. This is okay?
Ominous.
Very ominous. Very spooky. All right, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for coming, especially in the rain, in the traffic, in the month-end tiredness and chaos. We do appreciate it. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's physically here, and I know that there are quite a few people who, because of the rain and the traffic and the month-end madness, have chosen to stream online. So welcome to you as well. This is another edition of Ink and Insights. It's a flagship project of Jaiku, and Jaiku is a poetry nonprofit organization that is dedicated exclusively to building up our poetry community until it operates more like a poetry industry, and that all poets in Jamaica, let's say even across the Caribbean, can reach and maintain a professional standard and sustainable and even profitable standard of operation. I also understand, entiendo que hay algunos miembros de la Asociación de Argentina de Intérpretes y Traductores, muy bienvenido también, y muchísimas gracias por tu interés en esta reunión. Espero que este evento será una oportunidad para integrar más nuestras regiones, explorar diferentes posibilidades entre Jamaica, el Caribe y Argentina y Latinoamérica para compartir ideas y ganar más experiencias juntas para explorar y expandir el campo de la literatura. So, back to English. Had to give a shout out to them because they have expressed an interest. The Argentinian Association of Interpreters and Translators. Again, we're seeing how Jamaica is really to the world, right? So today we're going to be looking at themes and memes, how social media, shapes art and audience. And we have an expert panel here. But before we jump into that expert panel, we want to make sure that we hear from some of our generous hosts and sponsors, the Mico University College. And we have here the president of this wonderful institution here, Mr. Pinnock. We're asking you to come and share some. Doctor, sorry. My apologies, sir, Dr. Pinnock. So can you please come and share and welcome us officially into your home as we celebrate media and information literacy.
Good afternoon, esteemed panelists, Madam Chair, esteemed audience here and streaming online. Nowadays I'm very wary of being called doctor because when I returned to my communities some years ago after receiving my doctorate, someone came to the house with some ailment, wanted to seek treatment. So and they would say, "Oh, you're a good doctor," you know. But it is my pleasure this afternoon, this evening, to welcome my good guest to the Mico, and to share my distinct pleasure to extend to you a warm welcome, and to join us today and to share with us your panel discussion. Very interesting, themes and memes of social media shapes art and audience. And in fact, it's something that those who know me, I embrace the new technology age, 21st century, and today we have to ensure that we stand behind this force. You know, when a river is running downstream, it's very difficult, and the salmon will tell you it's very difficult to swim upstream, and that's when you get caught. And we wouldn't want to get caught in this, so we want to swim with the stream to ensure that we reach our destination where we want to be. And it is an empowerment tool, and in order for us to reach new heights, and often help us to gain what we want in real time. I call it the fast food culture, and the difference though is that it has nutrition in it to help us to achieve our goals. And therefore this platform will often turn spectators into participants, followers into critics, and artists into influencers. It enhances our creative activities, in writing songs, poems, essay. In fact, I'm not very creative. But recently I was able to use AI to write a few songs, and I even asked that it wrote for me a song that Bob Marley would have written about love. And it did. And it sounds like, Marley. So it can even turn me into a creative being. I won't do that injustice. Yes. And I hope the persons online do not expect me to break out into Spanish as my guest here did earlier. But I'm sure you can feel the warm welcome coming through my voice, even if it's not in Spanish. And at a teacher training institution, it is very important for us to be aware and to use social media in our academic and intellectual pursuit. It had that creativity in all of us, and it prepares us to teach and to engage in this changing environment. It is important that we infuse and embrace 21st century modalities in our curriculum to ensure that our student teachers and teachers, eventually teachers, will be fit for purpose. Because if we don't, we will die like Kodak. And so therefore, today, we are very privileged to have gathered with us this esteemed panel that will bring a wealth of expertise and experience. And I trust that their perspective will challenge and enlighten and inspire us all to explore the evolving landscape of the art in the age of social media. Thank you for being here, and I hope that all of us will enjoy this evening. And hopefully it will be, and I know it will be thought-provoking as we share with you. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
I think I speak on behalf of all of us here that, we appreciated that warm welcome, but we're a little bit disappointed. I wanted to hear the song anyway. Maybe next time. Maybe next time. All right, so as we said before, this panel discussion is a part of our commemoration of Global Media and Information Literacy Week. Now, this is a week that's commemorated annually by UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. And it's really to just raise awareness as to how the changing dynamics in, media and technology, how we interface with it, how we consume it, how we produce it, and why we even do those things. And we want to raise awareness about that in various forums. So UNESCO has generously supported this, alongside the Mico University College as well, in terms of what they've contributed in cash and in kind to get this event off. And we're hoping that this can even become an annual event where we gather persons, various stakeholders in the creative sector, in academia, in the corporate sector as well, to see how media, because the media really does interface across all of those. Right, so we're looking forward to seeing what, again, our expert panel has to say. I know that one of our panelists has a unforeseen time constraint, and she won't be able to stay with us for the duration of the event. So I'm going to ask her to come up right now and to at least share her thoughts and reflections on her art of storytelling and poetry. She really does both, among a range of other things, yes. So please welcome to the podium, Dr. Amina Black-Weeks.
Thank you very much, Casey, and congratulations. This is the second time that you're doing this, and I wish you every success in making it a big annual event. And I know that the president of the Mico University College loves to have big, meaningful events at his home campus here, and so I give it to the universe that this is the home of this annual encounter. Esteemed panelists, esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen, what a very provocative, that's my mother's word, provocating topic we have been asked to talk about. Means and themes, and the impact of social media on art, and what again, an audience. I want to confine my remarks to the Jamaican experience. And I want to talk about the way in which everybody is on social media and what I think it represents, it means, it uncovers. Everybody on TikTok, everybody on all the other one them. Help me. Facebook, Instagram, and one of my young friends tried to educate me. She said TikTok is where you can earn money because somebody can give you an elephant, a pineapple, or something, and each of them means something. Facebook is for people who fast in other people's business, and Instagram is for people who just love to look pretty. So them put on them pretty clothes and them come out and them pose. Maybe all of that is true, but I think it represents the fact that for far too long, the majority of this black African Jamaican population has had no voice in the media. No voice. We are not represented, except we eating food that the other ethnicities don't eat. So we want to eat mackerel. We want to have all of these negative names of what we eat. Because perhaps other people eat salt mackerel. We have to eat flash out and all of these things. So we have not seen ourselves represented. And where we are represented, we have not seen ourselves beautifully represented. I mean physically, and I mean personally, and I mean in terms of values, we're not well represented. And suddenly, we find a space where we can talk, and talk back to the empire, and talk how we feel. But when we look at the grammar of the people them who talking, when we look at the poses of them, when we look at how them have to lick them tongue and say, "Ah, my child," then we know that something serious is amiss with the representation of who we are on this social media. We can almost tick off the ones who never finished primary school. And so they have found an avenue to talk back to the empire. "Oh, no, let me out. Well, I know me have a talk." And they've been saying things that, let me give it its rightful name. Middle class Jamaica is highly amused by. Oh, it's how them really talk. It's how them behave. The same middle class Jamaica, educated Jamaican, who keeps talking about the way we should behave or ought to behave, as if there is a consensus, as if we have met. As if we have met and said, this is the kind of Jamaican who makes us proud. They achieve a certain level of education, etc., etc., etc. So they don't have that. So what we have instead is a term that some sociologists gave us a long time ago, cultural slumming. So you live up there, so, and the only time you go down there, so, is Sunday night when you go to the Raytown dance. And when you go into the Raytown dance, you tell yourself that people down there are going to rob you. So you take off your fancy necklace and your fancy watches, and it hasn't even occurred to you that people down there so laugh at how cheap your fancy watch and fancy thing is. So we have this imitation of the caricature of who we are, because we have not been talking to one another. And now the majority, or those who represent the majority, are up in our faces. And we say, "Oh, I saw Jamaicans steer." And so we all begin to have something beneath a standard that we can be proud of, that we can aspire to. Am I making sense about the pathology? about the dissonance, and I can't remember the word that Franz Fanon put in front of the dissonance. But there is a madness, cognitive dissonance. You're a bright girl. Cognitive dissonance. Imagine that Amina Blackwood Meeks is in a play, or I write a story, or I write a poem about the wonders of prostitution, and I perform it well. And then you see me in my non-performative state, and I say, but I don't believe that. You would have think I'm mad, don't it? So I think there is a way in which what we are seeing in social media, by and large, represents that cognitive dissonance. So I don't want to talk about what social media can do. The reality is, what is it doing? What is it doing now to a people who have not been facilitated to reach a certain level of book education, and I emphasize book education, for granny tell we say studyation is not education. Right now, we're very studiated, but are we educated? Do we have an internal construct? Do we know what it is to be represented on the international stage? Can I give a quick anecdote? Many years ago, I got a fellowship to go study storytelling. And the fellowship took me to South Africa. And in South Africa, there was a man called Credo Mutwa. He's now with the ancestors, and he would have been the same age as Louise Bennett. They read everything Credo Mutwa ever write. We listened to every poem he ever recorded before I knew he was still alive. So when I go into South Africa now and I hear him still alive, I decide I must have bound have to meet Credo Mutwa. And I arrived and I called, and a gatekeeper answered. I mean, he's the head of the Zulus. A gatekeeper answered and asked what we want. And we tell them, well, Credo not see nobody. And we call again and again until I got Credo. The first day I got Credo, he told me about all the places he had been exploited, so he doesn't meet strangers and he doesn't give in to you. There's like 21 days something I decide to follow. If it don't happen in 21 days, it is not going to happen. Like Alcoholics Anonymous. So every day at the same time, I call Credo Mutwa, and every day he will take my call and give me the same big bull, and no, he's not going to see me. And on the 21st day, when I was sure he was not going to see me, I gave him all his praise names, which I had learned, all his praise names, and then I said, I'm so sorry I won't have a chance to. Oh, he used to call me Madam, etc. I'm so sorry I won't have a chance to meet you, and I've come all the way from Jamaica. I was no longer Madam. Credo Mutwa said, Honorable one, Jamaicans have done nothing to harm me. When can you come? Why we never say Jamaica first? And stop go through all of that. So there is an image we have on the global stage which does not accord with the caricature that we see of ourselves in social media. That needs to be protected. If we do not protect the reputation of a Louise Bennett, of a Bob Marley, of a Marcus Garvey, nobody out there will remember them. And we ourselves will not remember them, will not know them sufficiently to represent them respectfully and truthfully in our art as that which we ought to be aspiring for. Thank you very much.
All right, so thanks so much for coming. This was great. I feel like we just got away. Belly full right there. Wow, thank you so much. Wow, I'm still trying to process. There's so many amazing points you brought up. All right, so while I am doing my little interlude of processing, I'm also going to say that as Jaiku, I said we are poets. I know that we've been hosting a lot of webinars, but we are poets, right? Sometimes I forget. And you're going to be hearing from a couple of our poets, including two of our co-founders and directors. So I'm going to ask, so I'm going to ask one of our panelists, Britton Wright, to come up. Afterwards, I'm going to ask Prophet. I'm going to learn your paper name one of these days. It's just that stage name sticks. So, Dujan Crossfield.
Right.
Yes, that's it. See the power of social media? I just know him as Prophet on Instagram all the time. I'm trying to remember this man's paper name. So first we're going to have Britton Wright, followed by Prophet.
Thank you very much for the wonderful welcome, Casey. And once again, good evening, everyone. Good evening, esteemed fellow panelists. So it's an honor to be representing Jaiku Poetry here once again. Lost knowledge. What them are gonna know, how it are gonna flow. This continuance of tradition is broken because open hands only grasp convoluted tokens taken from storeroom shelves. Jamaican picnic lock themselves in this sickly conjured cavern of technological tomfoolery. Consider this a eulogy to bygone past times when we used to pass time pushing bicycle rim, all rusty and spoke less of how many likes we latest post get and spoke more of Anansi, Tukuma, Zachariah folklore. What them are gonna know, how it a go flow, the quote wore different fabric then. Then when we used to spend hours a shape tree limb to put nail in a fling with English card and watch it spin. Why? Why them two can't try find stick in a bush where shape like capital Y and make stone sing? Because all them spy is the big pill. Them take it without the food and sit still, clutching tablets, tabulating tales and tweets. No time to get acquainted with the sweet, twittering treats of an antiquity. No, such things antiquated, outdated remnants of used to be. Peony wally in a tree replaced by man-made LED, and they never born come see jackass Khan and hominy. Never consume such delights with family. So what them are gonna know, how it a go flow, if not through me sketching poems with dusty metronomes and ancient acetates where vacillate like fashion to fascinate infantile hearts and wise minds. What them a go know, how it a go flow, nothing a go grow without the roots, but the truth is the youth is too blind and brainwashed to nurture seeds, cause all them read is an Instagram feed. Lost knowledge. Thank you.
Alright, so we're going to see some technological passing around right here. And while we're doing that, I just found out the other day, see I'm humble, Dujan won a JCDC medal for his poetry some time back. I never even sent it to me. Oh my word. It is two? Oh, just one. Yes, back in 2022. Alright, so congratulations, sir. Looking forward to hearing what you're going to bless us with on the mic right now.
Same day, different ideology. Same day, different ideas and sleep. Same day, different ideology. Same day.
I know what it feels to be perceived as being weak within society. I tame the beast, attack morality, and me hang from tree. It's black, you see, whips upon the skin, the fleshly part of me began to scream with ease. The news at me swinging, but dogs attack my feet. My blood had spilled, I could not believe this. I'm rocking in and out of consciousness. Don't wish this on your friends, mind. Enemies with them, mind. Family witnessing something that was deemed as a traumatic event. Same day, different ideology. Same day, different ideas I speak. Same day, different ideology. Same day. I know what it feels to be capsizing over sea with sharks surrounding me. Metals and feet, my freedom stripped. I beat I'm trying to grab a clear blue sky, but my lungs dropping. And look at me fading out. I'm seeing death again. The first blood was with great attraction. Its razor sharp upon my fleshly self. I'm feeling divided. Spread an Atlantic. My conscience spread an Atlantic. Same day, different ideology. Same day, different ideas I speak. Same day, different ideology. Same day. That's it.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing a snippet, just a shadow of the caliber that I have the joy and honor of working with. It really is fantastic working with both of them. And I'm going to invite Britta to come back and join me up here on the panel. So I want you guys to get to know who's up here with me, because we do have some fantastic people up here. And before she leaves, I don't think I really got to properly introduce Dr. Amina Blackman-Meeks. She holds a PhD in Cultural Studies. Her thesis, The Oral Tradition, Displacement, Adjustment, Replacement, Storytelling as a Tool for Holistic Development, is available on the University of the West Indies Mona. The website, of the University of the West Indies Mona. She's an award-winning writer, actress, storyteller, founder, artistic director of in Tukuma, the Storytelling Foundation of Jamaica. She weaves tales from the loom of her practical knowledge of the Caribbean, her life skills as mother, grandmother, educator, communication specialist, political scientist, social and cultural policy researcher and analyst, and farmer. Pick up that last one. I love it. Feeds the mind and the body, right? Her stories cover a range of issues affecting gender, the environment, children, and the direction of human development. From the traditional to the contemporary, from workshops to performances, Amina delivers confidently bilingual in English and Jamaican patois. She has traveled, as we heard earlier, all the way to South Africa, and I'm sure to several other places, with her special friends, Anansi, Miss Lady, and little Miss Jimban, to storytelling festivals and a host of speaking engagements across the Caribbean, Africa, Europe, and North America. So I know that you have to run, but we are so glad, and we were blessed and moved and convicted by what you shared earlier. And can we just give her another round of applause?
That I have to leave. I thank you so very much, and I trust my panelists will forgive me for not showing the respect of my person. Thank you. And everybody.
Thank you so much. So, up here as well, we have, again, we still have some panelists here who are going to be, I'm sure, giving us a whole lot more food for thought. So Kyle Chin, you can just stand up and make them know who you are. Yes, they were good.
Sure, I figured it out.
Yeah, but I mean, just smile to the people them online. There you go. Kyle Chin is a son of the Jamaican film industry and has experience in many areas of the film world. Born in Montego Bay, Jamaica, I didn't know. He received his Bachelor's of Arts degree in English and Philosophy from the University of the West Indies before graduating with honors from the Los Angeles Film School. After working on several projects in Los Angeles, varying from short films to features and national commercials, Kyle returned home. And since then, he's been an instructor at UECFP for the last 3 years, instructing directing, among other subjects like cinematography and acting for film. Kyle is completely immersed in the local film industry as a director, a cinematographer, an editor, and I'm just going to put in here head cook and bottle washer, it seems like, having directed and or shot commercials, short films, and documentaries. So a round of applause for Kyle for joining us. And then the rose among the thorns right now, Caroline Thompson is a literacy specialist and gender specialist who who truly believes in holistic mental, spiritual, academic, and social development. She holds qualifications from the University of Technology and right here, the Mico Teachers College. She also holds a bachelor's degree and 2 master's degrees because she greedy. She could have left one back for the rest of it, but she holds 2 master's degrees in literacy studies and gender and development from the University of the West Indies. She's been a lecturer in the Department of Language Literacy and Literature at Mico University College for 15 years. Oh, I think I'm gonna have to condense this because it's so much right now. I'll leave it at here. She has written 3 books for Jamaica's Literacy 123 program and runs reading clubs for teenagers, and is also heavily involved in various types of charity work and volunteerism. So thank you so much, Caroline, for bringing us into your home here at Mico. Round of applause for her people. And last but absolutely not least, you heard him out just a while ago. Britton Wright, as you can probably tell by now, is a poet, and very much so, who hails from Stony Hill and currently resides in Manchester. This man drove in from Manchester today just to be here. We need a round of applause just for that. Through rain and traffic environment. He is the co-founder and director of content creation and social media marketing for Jaiku. He has graced both local and international stages, most recently as a featured act of the West Indian Women's Annual Poetry Competition, and as a guest presenter in collaboration with UNESCO, the Jamaica National Commission for UNESCO, who again is our sponsor for today's event, at its World Poetry Day exhibit earlier this year. And Britton was also the first runner-up for the prestigious 2024 Louise Bennett Coverley Prize, which is issued by the Poet Laureate Program at the National Library of Jamaica. His style of poetry is heavily influenced by his passion for music and love of his rich Jamaican culture. He commands a unique ability to write and perform in both standard English and patois, and flows seamlessly between them, as you saw earlier today, just a while ago. And his pieces speak on a vast array of topics such as the love of country, nature, and he's also an advocate for mental health awareness. So, a round of applause for all of our Okay, so, because I don't want to feel too far from you guys, and I don't want to feel like I'm just all the way over there. So, I think Amina really started us off. I had questions. I really did have questions that I was going to ask, but I think it would be remiss of me not to follow up on what Amina has started us off on. She raised so many excellent points about how we represent ourselves to ourselves, right? And how the concept of cultural slumming. I've never heard that term before, but when she explained it, it made so much sense to me. In a sense of you are from the same country, but then you're already in your own mind, creating and perpetuating a concept of this other culture that's in your own country that is not true, but it reinforces the divisions that you want to see, that you believe are already there in your society and you almost want to maintain. Do any of you want to jump in and talk about how your respective art form, whether it's filmmaking, storytelling, I mean, Caroline as an academic, writing, or poetry, how do you see that playing out in your art form, or how do you see your use of that art form countering that notion of cultural slumming?
Jump in there. Good evening, everyone. Doctor and my esteemed panelists. So I think, especially when it comes to filmmaking and when you're writing for film, and obviously we're writing stories that should be true to life or represent a world that you want to create, whether it's sci-fi, horror, whatever the genre may be, you're going to create that reality. And I feel like, for the most part, I remember for myself, if I'm writing stories in Jamaica and about Jamaican context, I'm not writing about a Chinese man or a half Chinese man. I'm just writing about the culture that I grew up in. I'm writing about a culture that I can understand and identify with. And I think as a filmmaker and as a writer, that's kind of the way that I would have to attack it, although just to stay genuine. You know what I mean? So even though my film might go to the Pan-African Film Festival in Los Angeles, and I might go there and be like, what is man doing here? You know, you're not knowing that I have African heritage. You know, the truth is that my culture is what it is, and I am from where I am from. And so the stories that I tell will have whatever kind of moral message or theme that's built within the experience that I've lived. And I think it's important to just represent whatever truth that you're coming from and not try to create something just for the story, because that's now where maybe research comes into play, partnering with another writer might come into play, but you want to stay genuine. And which is why you'll have shows, TV shows and so on that bring on consultants. A writer might not be a gangster, but he's going to do a gangster show and bring on some gangsters to do the show. You know what I mean? To consult with him, or the same thing for police and so on. So I think there are ideas of difference within our culture. A lot of people will tell you there's like 5 Jamaicans. Is it untrue? Yeah. Is that untrue? Not necessarily. Mandeville living might be very different from Kingston living. Yeah, kind of change, yeah. Well, I mean, so I think there is some idea of, so I would challenge the notion a little bit about whether or not we're necessarily culturally swimming when we tell a story, or when we tell ourselves that story. I think we're all living under classifications that we kind of expose ourselves to in everyday life. And so we try to figure out, you know, until we experience it for ourselves, you don't know what's going on over there. It's just the sensationalized parts is all that you're exposed to, you know, usually. And that's really what social media does. And what a lot of people need to realize is that social media is not real life, because the only parts that go viral are the sensationalized parts. It's the extreme. So then how true is it? Are we living that extreme all the time? I don't think so. So that's my 2 cents.
I totally agree with him, and I'm happy you brought that up about the whole, you know, just being authentic on social media. I don't know if you want to think about it historically, and I want you to just think, before social media, we created identities based on sincerity. Before social media, our identity was based on our tribe, our family, our gender. Exactly, the church. But our identity, we adapted these things because of what society told us. There was nobody else. There were no followers. So your identity was, what do I mean to my mother? What do I mean to my father? What do I mean to my community? If I'm a Christian, how do I behave? Yeah. And you know what happened? As the years progressed, we started to think. So we moved from identity being sincerity to identity being authenticity. All of a sudden, people wanted, I need to be myself. I need to find myself. I don't feel like a girl. I feel like a man. I feel like a puppy. I think I can fall in love with a tree. So that is where we moved from. Where we tried to find ourselves, and we said, okay, this is our authentic identity, because how I feel inside has to match how I look outside. What we're doing now, and Instagram kind of helped us with that, because we took all these pictures. I want to look this way, I want my life to be this way, so it's authentic. Now, when we're forming our identities, what are we doing? Think about it. We are actually curating and creating our identities. Me no can me do it.
That's what we do. And even if you're not able to articulate it, we are doing that. So we move from sincerity to authenticity to authenticity. Profiles. So what we have is, are these people, are all of us really authentic? How is social media really changing us? What we do when we are creating these identity profiles, that we decide, I've decided that I'm an educator. I've decided that I'm a hot girl nerd. And if you look on my Instagram page, that is what I present. The question is that who I really am, or what I want the public to see? And I'm glad you brought up that point.
Yeah, those were both very excellent points. Kyle challenging the earlier discussion about whether it is we're slumming, cultural slumming as this new term. I'm learning things. Yeah, I'm learning things. So that was a beautiful examination of how the structure of our identities, or how we structured our identities in the past versus how it's being done now. Right, the evolution and the progression of that because of the prevalence of technology and how technology has evolved, and with the ways that technology has evolved, we have also evolved and adapted to these changes and advancements in technology. And let's be real, sometimes it's not necessarily for the best, you know. So, but I want to speak on specifically my re-entry into the creative space, and I owe a substantial amount of that, to be honest, to social media and effective leveraging of social media, because I had took quite a long break from writing and creating, and a good friend of mine encouraged me to participate in a live open mic, a virtual open mic. This was back in COVID, so that was a beautiful way of leveraging social media and the tools that it allows us, especially as it relates to networking and actually socializing, because there's a virtual community out here for pretty much any interest that we might find ourselves in as far as creative genres. So as a poet, it was wonderful to have that eye-opening revelation of the existence of a virtual space where we could go and meet with other poets, share our works, and for me it reinvigorated me, and it brought forth new inspiration to start creating again. So for me, I definitely have a positive relationship with certain aspects of social media, and I'm grateful that I was able to effectively leverage specifically Instagram poetry communities to re-emerge. And without the existence of that, especially during such an uncertain time, 2-3 years ago, I can't believe it's like that far along now, when we had COVID and we couldn't really be outside in the ways that we are now. And we're so grateful to be outside now in such a way where we don't have to be covering our faces with masks, So during that time, we were able to effectively leverage social media and create and inspire and maintain that sense of community. So I just wanted to illustrate that as a positive aspect of the use of social media and how it can positively help us as creatives to join in that community, right? So yeah, I just wanted to share that point.
So as I'm listening to all of you, and I'm trying to juggle between being both a moderator and then also just as a poet myself, I'm picking up on a trend or a common theme, so for the topic today, themes and themes, of relating to other people in a genuine way. And I do put genuine in quotations. So when Kai was pushing back against the notion of, it's not always necessarily cultural slumming, right? Because if it sometimes actually is true, and it's just, or if it's true for you because that's really your experience, it's not slumming. And then again, when it comes to relating to people, as Caroline was saying, we've moved from what we consider a position of integrity because we're trying to live out these rules that we have inherited from our communities, whether it's from our families and so on, and we move into trying to create our own rules for ourselves, or then create our own profiles for people to see. And then, Kristen was talking about, again, relating to people through social media, which, unfortunately, the general feeling about social media is that it's not as social as we think it is, and it's not as effective. So, in that vein, since that seems to be this overarching, or at least this common thread between all of your comments, as a filmmaker, as a writer, academic, as a poet, how do we build on the avenues that are not being effectively used to genuinely relate to people using social media? Because I feel like there's still you're all hinting at this disconnect that's there. We all see it, we all feel it, but how do we leverage it well? I know, Britton, you're saying that you got your poetry out there, but when you got your poetry out there, do you feel like your poetry genuinely connected with other people, or was it more of a platform for sharing, like for performing? Just things like that. I kind of want us all thinking along those veins, since it's something that I've noticed as moderator Casey, that's something I was picking up on in all of your comments.
I'm not going to be long for this one because are we truly connecting with everybody, or as many people as we need to connect with? My concern is that something is happening in society where we are not as intellectually strong as we ought to be. I don't know if you've ever heard this term, TikTok brain. Know the term? TikTok brain? Is it? TikTok brain, no, but the research is actually new. The research is about 2-3 years old. The issue we're having, and because I've seen Kyle's work, it's very deep, it takes a lot of processing. I was listening to Britton's poetry. You have to be following what he's saying. You have to be creating images in your mind. It takes intellectual and attention stamina. No, TikTok brain, that is what the researchers actually call it. What they're finding, early studies show that TikTok has done a number of things. Now, TikTok, the videos are very short, and then they come one after the other, right? Your brain first doesn't get a break. So what you have is, so you have a dog dancing, you laugh, ha, I feel nice, and you get a little dopamine rush and you feel nice, and then there's a little song that you don't like, but guess what? It's so fast and it keeps on moving that your brain keeps on getting excited. What's coming next? What's coming next? What's coming next? But it's very short. It's affecting our teens and our children. What is happening is that they cannot process. Well, first, they cannot process depth, and then they have short attention spans. So when Britton writes his poetry, when you present your movies that require deep analysis, when I try to lecture and ask people to do any kind of deep analysis, they're not being difficult. They cannot do it because their brains have been rewired to wait for the next 2-second dopamine rush. So are we truly connected now? I realize that I'm in a space now and even the people who are online. We are all in a space, but I don't know if you realize it. We are a disappearing breed. We are a disappearing breed. The people who are actually able to focus for a long time, they're disappearing. That is why I honor what Jaiku is trying to do. I honor what Mico is trying to do. I honor what UNESCO is trying to do. We are out here fighting for our lives. We are literally fighting against stupidity. That is what we're doing. Yeah, man, we're fighting, man, fighting. Because we're dying breed, because our children are losing 4 important skills. So I expect now that these 2 gentlemen are going to fix the society.
Hey, it's funny you say that because, I mean, so literally, TikTok brain, I've experienced it. I do experience it every night at about 2 o'clock in the morning while I'm in my bed like this. It's very bad, and I know this. But what happened, what's interesting is that, so I'm a filmmaker, as you know, I make films, and like you say, I try to push message through my films. It's all about there has to be something of meaning for it to be worthwhile, or else it will be forgotten, right? And so Instagram now, I started a series called Bad Man Food, and people love it. There's no depth to it, none, zero depth, but it's fun, and it's funny. And one of the most common threads that you hear is, make this into a movie. Now, I will tell you, there is no possible way to make it into a movie because there's nothing there. There's no depth to it. And that's what shot my followers up to 18,000 from 6, right? And they shot in my box. And it's really just a parody about what if what if there was a Jamaican martial art? That's what the parody is about, right? So, using all the things that we're used to seeing as children and in our society just generally, and turning it into if this was a martial art. And like I said, there's no depth to it, but that's what's gotten the popularity. Now I've thought about this. What if I do a crowdfunding situation and actually make a movie? I think it's possible, except for the fact that it would kill my soul because there's no depth to it. So for me to sit down and write this film that could be crowd appreciated, like audience appreciated, and actually be commercially successful maybe, how do I then add an element of depth that could make it worth doing and make it worth giving to the society, period? So you find yourself as an artist stuck between the commercial and the
creative, authentic.
Beyond creative, authentic. The commercial and almost the moral, in a sense. Like, because do I sell my soul to make the buck?
Yeah.
Or do you just leave it as what it is, and then try to make something that's creative that might win an award, but never make a single dollar. You know what I mean? And we're living in a situation now, what social media is doing, just like you're talking about, how you got a platform during the time. It's giving every single audience member a chance to be their own channel. You're your own TV channel, you're your own cable channel. And what's happening now is that we're also placing our validation upon how well our channel does. Right, and there's not, so the quality of how you relate to people is no longer a thing. That's why you'll have pranksters having huge channels. People watch to see you disrespect other people. And then, but it's entertainment value. It's an entertainment that we have devolved to. And it starts from TV days. I mean, it starts from Jackass, it starts from hits on the street, But then it has evolved, and of course it's given everybody the microphone and everybody the lens to do it. And, power to the people, it's all good. Everybody, do what you can do, find your way. But then, how do we, the problem is the attention economy. Attention becomes super, super valuable. And of course, we've seen what that does to general moral, standards. Of course, if you're a good-looking woman and you get a lot of attention, it's very, very easy to monetize. So you're literally making money. You know what I mean? You don't even have to be doing the OnlyFans or the whatever it is. You could literally just be pretty and just go to, you say, I'm going to represent a brand. I'm going to represent this bikini brand, or I'm going to represent this juice brand. And so everybody is branding, and all of it just becomes branding. You know what I mean? And then how do you tell people to walk away from a vocation? Because now it's a vocation, it's a job. You know what I mean? So how do you say, all right, let's try to do something, or stick to something that is a little more substantive. So you have people who are going through their whole university career, and then they realize, oh, but we can't just tell to joke on social media.
Yeah.
None of this don't matter no more. You know what I mean? So I think it's an interesting thing, and I'm not saying that I have the answers, but I do think we have to be conscious that this is a fight that is happening while it's happening.
Thank you, Kyle, for so many illuminating and thought-provoking points just now. Especially being vulnerable about the fact that you're a human being and you're not impervious to the temptations of scrolling and getting caught up in that same the algorithm, so to speak. Yeah. We're all susceptible to it, and it just further highlights just how important it is for us to take time and unplug from it and just be present. And also, as Carlin was highlighting earlier, just the fact that it's now unfortunately becoming a rarity to find people who can really sit and focus and just really concentrate for a consistent period of time. And to segue into another point, it's very important for us as creatives, for you, Kyle, as a filmmaker, it's very important for you to be able to focus on whatever project you're creating, because there are many different layers and aspects to the logistics of creating a film project, and you have to have that cognitive ability to really concentrate on whatever task it is that you're in the process of completing for the sake of your workflow, to see your vision come to life. Same thing for Carlin. If Carlin is writing something, she needs to be able to concentrate and focus consistently to see it through to the end of whatever it is that she's creating. And for me as well, and for Casey, who is an excellent poet as well, we need to be able to sit free of distraction to really be able to reflect or just observe our spaces and create poetry. So it's becoming quite a challenge to really be disciplined when it comes to practicing our various creative endeavors, right? Just simply because of the existence of social media and how addicting it can be. And also, to touch on another point that Kyle made earlier, is that we also have to be aware of the reality that social media now has such an influential reach that when we are creating projects, we can sometimes accidentally or unintentionally have a success or a hit on our hands, right? But then it kind of pigeonholes us in a sense. It has the potential to limit what we're known for as creatives and inaccurately portray what we're about as people. Because a lot of people can just see your highlights when you're sharing Batman Fu and just feel say, you're just one kuning kumpu. No, you know? So he touched on a wonderful point where we have to be mindful and very careful of how we can potentially allow social media and our audience on social media to influence what we create and the purpose behind our creations, right? So we can't give up our autonomy and our creative power because of that allure of the following that we will lose out on if we are to stick to our authentic creative journey or inclinations, right? Yeah.
No, just to add to what you're saying, because you had mentioned that there's a group out there for everybody, and I've seen it, man. It's crazy. Like there's a group for all the people who brush their teeth upside down. Like it's anything you can possibly mention, it's out there, right? But then the answer, because we're talking about how it shapes audiences, right? And the art. And the question you have to ask them, is it the most effective thing to ask people to put it down? Is that what's going to be the most effective thing? Or is it more effective to put art in place that helps to center people? Just like the same sleep thing. At the same time of night when I'm going like this, I always buck up on sleep aids. So sleep aid videos. Yeah? So you come up on the thing and it's saying, if you need to sleep, listen to this sound. Or, you know what I mean? So then, is that the way we should be thinking? That we don't, if we want to move deeper, we as artists know how to find a way to pull people deeper. And it might be a slow pull, you know what I mean? It probably can't be a tug, like you might have to just find something that, so it's a bad one for me, like we said, all right? Maybe I need to add a little story element. Maybe I need to add a character that now people start to care about. And then give that character a significant challenge. And then we start to care about whether the character overcomes that challenge. And then that's how we start to edge into a more meaningful art piece.
I love where the conversation is going. I know you're saying that, I don't have any answers, but I think you just maybe have to stumble upon maybe at least one for Batman Food One. Yes, I have liked at least 5 of your Batman Food Ones. Yes, right? I'm confessing that. And I think you're touching on something that we need to get into that a lot of times we shy away from in the creative sector, that it is a sector. It needs to make money, bills have to pay, right? And we're kind of where we want to kind of lock artists and creators into this thing where you're supposed to just do it for the passion and for the love of it, but at the same time, for it to be sustainable, we need to pay our bills and we need to make sure we're generating income. You don't have to sell your soul for it. Maybe you have to just add a really cool, maybe an underlying positive message to the Batman food videos. That's not selling your soul. So maybe as artists, again, this can't be one size fits all solution, but maybe there is a way in which we have to start looking at how we can start to infuse what's already working with more of what we want to work in the future. You can create desire. There are ways to do that, right? So even if I want to sell this envelope, I can say, okay, I can be like, hey, just come buy the envelope now, or I can tell you about how great, the color is, or how, oh my gosh, I think it's looking a bit rainy outside. You sure you don't want to protect your documents? Like, there are ways in which we as creators, we have to be creative about our creativity and about how we market it to our audience. So even as we are talking about how social media shapes art and audience, and we've talked a bit about how TikTok brain has started to shape the kind of art that's unfortunately, it shapes the kind of art that is demanded. And social media is now shaping through TikTok brain even the audience. Can the audience even have the capacity to consume art of a certain level of complexity? The kind of dots that Britton, you have to connect dots in Britton's poems. Like, you have to know that he's referencing 3 different things. You have to understand the message that Kyle is bringing out. So I mean, it's audiences now, as Carolina said, they don't even have the capacity to consume certain levels of complexity of art now. But then we as creatives have to see how we can use our art now to shape them back. We have to reshape them, and maybe that's a level of responsibility as poets, as storytellers, as filmmakers. We have to start taking on and seeing how we can do that, but gently though, as Kaz said, not with a big tub, because a tub rarely works. Rarely, and baby steps there, because cancel culture is also a thing. It's a real thing. And even while I was talking about how we have to reshape our audience through our art, something that Carly brought up about this third wave of identity. I think, I don't know if I can use that phrase. It's a third wave. We've been fancy word did you use earlier, I can't pronounce it, I'm across by the word. It's about you presenting yourself. Through profiles, right? I'm wondering what you guys would have to say about that when it comes to how we use our art in order to even generate desire. How much of a role does the creation of our own profiles play in that? For instance, I'm a spoken word poet, so I kind of sound a bit like what Prophet and Britton sounded like earlier. So I won't necessarily sound like Shakespeare with "Thou is artist, my deepest desire," if you know. So there's a style of poetry to that, and there are also themes that I tend to write on. Is it that I have to start without selling my soul, but yet still making that, striking that balance to make sure I can still do something that will attract the attention of audiences who are willing to give me an honorarium to perform? Do I have to start creating a slightly different profile, hook an audience a bit onto what they're getting, and then after they're hooked, do I try to infuse them with a certain message? It's a question I'm putting out there to you guys. I don't have the answer. I'm just putting it up.
Oh, use this one? I love that you brought that up. I love that you brought that up because we, as I said, we're fighting.
Yes.
Tooth and nail. We love man. We love man. Yeah, we love man. Yeah, man. Nobody can love man like me. Because I love humanity. I love the fact that we need to be kind. We need to be empathetic. We need to help each other and be tolerant. That's one technique. We say, I love man, everybody wake up. Everybody wake up, right? You know that I have your attention. Yes. I love humanity. Yes. We need to find a way, and it's hard because you have to be thinking like that all the time. But if you're in a war, you have to use the weapons.
And I love how she was able to just naturally bring us to where she wanted us just now, right? And it's just how she did it. It's just the terminology that she used, right? It really brought us to a state of attentiveness. So she just highlighted just now that we as creatives have that power. It's just a matter of creatively and intelligently and cleverly finding ways to trigger the attention and retain the attention of our audiences, right? Because Casey was saying earlier when she posed the question, I was just thinking about the fact that what she's currently doing, which is representing her authentic self, it's working, and it's working wonderfully, So, as Carlin would have said a while ago, it's just how you go about leveraging and retaining your audience's attention. So, well said, and cleverly executed as well.
I think one thing that we can acknowledge for sure is that branding, it's all about branding. Like, all of this is branding. Yes. And so even though Casey might be doing a great job of representing herself, is anybody seeing it? Does anybody, are the people who she needs to see seeing it? And that's really like where now we have to think creatively again. And I find myself thinking like a marketer all the time. All the time now I'm thinking, so for instance now, if you know that people not seeing you, How do you get people to see you? You're going to partner with somebody who's seen. You know what I mean? And going to the spaces where the audience is there. But again, maybe you don't need a lot of people to see you. And it's just about the important people seeing you. Right? Depends on what you're going for. So I think that was my point. I don't know. That's what I was trying.
Keep going, good. I mean, we're almost at 7 o'clock. So, is there any? Again, it's so funny. Again, we had questions here, but the conversation just it went where it needed to go. I think. Yeah. Absolutely, yes. And again, I don't know if we're friends from Argentina or still awake, but you know, they've been enjoying and following the conversation. Are there any final thoughts that you guys would want to share when it comes to maybe it's a lesson that you've learned? You know, you're just talking about brand development and getting yourself seen, and you've done a very good job. I mean, you shot up from 6 to 18,000 followers. You clearly you're doing well at getting seen, right? Are there any pieces of advice or tips that you want to share with other creatives in your respective fields on how to navigate some of the challenges that were raised during this discussion today?
Well, you know what's interesting? I have 2 Instagrams, right? So I have one, Afro-Asian Productions.kc, and that's where like I put most of my film stuff. Because I noticed, like the other one, because I have 2 lives, I'm a mixed martial artist. I used to be a professional fighter. So that Instagram would get a lot of attention because, you know, professional fighting is pretty unusual. So it would get a lot of attention for that. And whenever I post film stuff on that, you don't get no attention, you don't get no love, you know what I mean? And I will admit it used to affect me. I'm like, why am I getting some likes? So I just stopped posting that stuff. And I posted on that, and this is something my wife cussed me about. She said, why are you doing that? Why are you splitting up? You're one person, just make everything on one thing. And I don't know if I disagree. I don't know, I'm not sure yet, but for sure, like Afro-Asian Productions, it's probably like 1,000 followers, right? But what I did with Madman Food was collaborating the 2. I just, so who see that, see the other one, you know what I mean? But I would say that I think generally what we have to think about is also our algorithms and, you know, how because you are the audience, you curate what you're the audience of. So you might be seeing something that I don't see just because of your general pattern of viewing. And I think we have to protect ourselves in that way. But also as creators, you want to be able to put out the content that you want to be known for, and then find a way to balance it with content that people want to see. You know what I mean? So, that making sense?
Yes.
But of course it's difficult, for sure. But, and what you have to not do is take it personally, you know? You know what I mean? Like, just don't take it personally. Because it's funny what kind of things we mingle. So that's why we have one-hit wonders in music. Yeah, people come out with one song and they can never follow up with another hit.
Don't forget
So do we.
Mindful.
Yeah.
And look how well that did.
Yeah, I mean, things come and go, absolutely. So just don't let social media change who you are trying to be as a person, is what it is. Because your brand, it's very easy to get lost in what your, what's the word? Alter ego. What you might create an alter ego for your brand, and then that's not really who you are. That's okay if you tell yourself you're an actor. If you say to yourself, you know, this is what I do, I'm an actor, and this is my alter ego, that's okay. But you have to know that you're treading that line. And some actors have problems for a reason, because they lose themselves. And then it starts to create depression, and it starts to, all of these things. So just, as we go back to identity and understanding that your brand, depending on who you are and what you're trying to do, might not be your identity. But we have to also consider, this ain't a real place. It's not real. It's not. I'm not opposed that we were like, shut him up. But yeah, it's just to remember that it's not a real place, and we have to we have to remind the young ones that that's the case, because that's the only world that they know. That's the world that they're growing up in, the metaverse. Yeah, and they're creating their entire worlds in games and in all of these things. So it really is getting to be a tricky thing. So that is that.
I did want to jump in and put in a shameless plug for Jaiku, because when you're talking about the branding and knowing the different people who want different things in different spaces, and how, like, let's say, if you're on your fighting profile, the film videos aren't doing as well. That's actually why, as part of the reason I'm really passionate about getting Jaiku up and off the ground, because the poetry community tends to have lots of people who operate in silos. So you have Casey over here, Britton over there, Prophet over there. And we each just, instead of us coming together and saying, okay, if you just want, anybody who wants poetry, come to us and we'll be able to match what you want based off of how we operate as a collective. Everybody is on their own trying to, trying to either cut out a little piece of the pie for themselves, instead of realizing if you come together, you really can actually bake a much bigger pie. Because I know it, like, when you said don't take it personal, I mean, it's going to be a very funny story that Britain is tired of me telling. So, poetry and these, like, wine bars, it's a nice event, everybody likes this elegant art. I go up there, I do my poems, nobody not really put on me right now. Britain goes up there and they have this table of women. No, them women there, them love. And I just have to accept that. I'm like, I'm not even going to take it personal anymore. As long as it's under the Jaiku brand and this table of women, all they remember is these Jaiku poets came and they had a blast, and they're screaming they asked Britain for about 5 encores. They ordered extra bottles of wine because they wanted Britain up there. They didn't even remember my name. I don't think they remember that I even performed that day, but it's okay. I'm not taking it personal. Right? But when you come together as a collective, you get to leverage that as well. So everybody can win. And so that is a part of the vision that we have at Jaiku, where we can really create an industry where every poet, because you're coming together and you're a collective, when they approach you as a collective, you can respond as a collective, and from that place, every poet can really have their own space. No? And yes, Britain, even with Britain there, even with the back of man, screamed out for him. Yes, he'll leave room. Britain will leave a couple of crumbs from the pie for the rest of us.
Yeah, I'll be so, what's the term now? Generous.
Yes, so kind.
Yeah, so kind, so mindful, eh?
Yes.
Yeah, man. So yeah, my message to leave is that, and it's to kind of follow our excellent point of many that Kyle made, is that we have to be mindful of the reality that as creatives, we're human beings, and we ought to manage our insecurities around our creative identities, especially to not get caught up in the metrics of that virtual space out there, the metaverse, right? Because when we do that, it takes away from valuable mental space that we could otherwise be using to propel ourselves forward and to come up with other creative ideas for projects. We're there spending all of that time mulling about in our insecurities, comparing